Ready, set, go.
Welcome to The Sweet Spot, an Updog podcast. I'm Andrea Morissette.
And I am Jack Faley, and we are your hosts today.
And today we have a very special guest. It's Yo Mama! No, we don't have any special guests today. We are the special guest today for today's topic, which we put on the group, and you guys gave us amazing feedback. It's about freestyle music. I'm so excited about this topic. I saw it come up and I plucked it out and I requested that we do this one right away because it's one of my favorite things to talk about. And Jack and I love talking about freestyle, and Kat knows all about this stuff too. So we have all three of us on here to talk about freestyle music, and we have a bunch of your questions that you guys submitted that we're going to be answering today.
And just so that you guys know, Kat is now addicted to the podcast. She was like, "What are you guys talking about this morning? What's going on? When does it start? Can I be involved? Huh?
We got her. Got her.
None of that happened, but okay.
That's not true. It sort of happened, maybe just not exactly that way.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're glad Kat is joining us today. So as Gray said, we had posted this and we picked some questions out, and I kind of pulled those questions out. You're actually going to even hear who posted some of these questions. A lot of questions were like repeats, like a number of you guys had similar questions. So we kind of lumped some of the questions together, and Dre and I are just going to kind of ask the questions of each other, and Kat and I, or Kat and Dre, whoever is not the one answering it initially, will definitely jump in and give their opinions. It'll be interesting for us to kind of know, like, what each other think on this as well. So yeah, I think I've got the first question.
And Kat's
really
Dre,
sorry.
Enforcer. So it's important that she's here, especially for this first question, because I'm just like, we could answer because we're just going to answer these things based on our like feelings about it if we don't have something in place for it already. And so Kat's here to let us know if we're allowed to say that stuff or not. So I'm glad that she's here to kind of make sure that even though we have opinions or thoughts about stuff, that it's all in alignment with the spirit of Updog as well.
Yep. Rule enforcer.
Rule enforcer, the enforcer. See, she's here for a very, very important.
See how she smiles and gets excited about that?
And the evil laugh. That's going at the end of the podcast. That laugh right there was great. All right, I'm going to ask the first question because I really love this question. Are you ready?
Wait, no, I asked the first question. You're
okay.
Purple.
Okay, you're right. Okay, go.
Don't worry, we're all going to get to say what we think. So, all right, Dre. So before a player even starts about thinking about what they would like to pick for their freestyle music, some players would like to know if there are any rules about music selections for contests. In particular, Sarah McManaman asks, when are we going to be allowed to pick songs with swears?
Well, this was a great question, and I was excited about this one because some people mentioned the Mickey rule, which that's something that us as founders, when we were writing the original rules for Updog, we discussed the Mickey rule, adopting, because a lot of times when you start something new,
what's the Mickey rule?
Oh, so the Mickey rule is music that would be able to be played at Disney World. So no F-bombs, you can't even say hell. Like, and that's a Skyhounds limitation. So that's what Skyhounds rules state as far as their music selection. Moxie had, I think it was hell or damn in Black Betty, and I got called out on that. So they were very stringent. They used to go through every single song and check it for lyrics. And if anything came up, then your song was booted. So that's what the Mickey rule was. And one person at least one person, when I saw it, thought that the Mickey rule may have applied. And I know that we had discussed that, but I don't think that we settled on that being like, it's what I remember our conversation being was that we just want to keep in mind that it's still a family-friendly event, right? But I mean, I think we have a lot of freedom in regards to music. I don't have a problem if there's an F-bomb in there. I would so one time in St. Louis, I played to Forgot About Dre. It was a local contest, and I did not realize how many F-bombs were in that song, and it was very loud at Purina Farms, and there were people around. So in the spirit of that, I would say that to that degree of verbal freedom of self-expression might impact negatively the youth competitors or people that might be in the area that brought kids to that event. We wouldn't want them to be deterred from Updog because, you know, we're putting music out there that could be hurtful or offensive or detrimental to a child. But aside from that, I have no problem. I love music in all forms, and I love the occasional F-bomb. And I think that, you know, that stuff adds passion to music just like it does to conversation. So I don't have any problem with it. But that's kind of what my thought was about it, is I remember us discussing the Mickey rule, but I don't think we ever put that in place. And we haven't had any conversations about having issues with music with people or complaints or anything. So it hasn't really come up as a problem.
It's interesting that the competitors think that there's a Mickey rule for Updog, because I mean, I just looked through the rules one more time to make sure that it wasn't there, and I just forgot. But we don't have a rule on that. But what we've always said when people ask is you need to take your particular environment into account, like you guys have already said. So, you know, if you're in someone's backyard doing a competition and there's no general public there and there's no little kids there, you know, that's up to the host as to what you could do. But if you're in the public eye, then you need to keep that in mind. And I would recommend you go with something that you don't have to be as like Mickey safe, but if they wouldn't play it on the radio, you probably shouldn't play it in a public park, would be my opinion. Especially at something like UpDiff this year, where we expect we'll have more spectators than usual.
Right.
You know, keep that in mind. There could be young kids there, or, you know, people who find language offensive, you know, so just
Right.
make good decisions.
Yeah, she said something interesting in there, Jack. I want to hear your feedback before I allude to what she had said, but that was
No, I
some
mean,
interesting-
I feel the same way as you do, Dre. I mean, I don't have anything against it. Like you said, I think it adds some passion to the music, you know, as long as it's not like extreme, you know, like I think that we'll get into this a little bit more in another question, but you also kind of have to think about your judges as well, when you're making a selection in terms of, you know, vulgarity in your or profanity, I guess, in your music, and whether or not that could impact the judges in one way or the other. But yeah, I mean, I've done the same thing as you. I've pulled a track quickly before and been like, oh, I'm gonna play to this, and then didn't realize like when I'm out on the field and listening to it, I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot of like language in
There's
this.
a lot in there.
I mean, we had one of our younger players locally do the same thing. She was like, "Oh, I'm playing to this new song today," and she gave it to us, and like it was like very sexually explicit, and it totally did not match like what this young player's personality is. And we were all like, "Oh my gosh!" And she was shocked at the end of it. She's like, "Wow, I didn't even realize." She's like, "I just like the beat of that song." So sometimes, like, you know, it does pay to just give it a second listen before you decide this is my song.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the let it fly for self-expression and thing, but the thing that I really liked that Kat said was the clubs. So that's been a big thing for us since the very beginning, is like we don't want to be micromanagers. Updog is not interested in handling all the club drama. Like y'all can have all your club drama and make your decisions on everything that we feel like you can make your decisions on. So maybe music is one of those things where we just say it's up to the club. And they can choose, the club host can choose if the environment is suitable for what level, and they can communicate that at the time, or, you know, just heads up, we're going to be at a public park with a lot of kids around, so keep in mind with your music, you know, whatever. Because at UpDiff, we would make that call. It'd be the event hosts. And then that's one thing we really don't have to like write a note or a rule for. It's like if you're in a private property and you want to play to Eminem, man, one day I'm going to play to you lose yourself. That's a goal of mine. And you know, I don't want it to be bleeped the whole time. I want it to fly. So I'll have to do that at somebody's private property, I guess.
You can come play here, and as long as we don't have the little kids here that day or my mom here that day, you're welcome to play it.
Deal. Have your mom take the little kids out for ice cream, and then we'll
There
play.
you go.
Distraction. That was a great question, though. Do you have anything else about that one, Jack?
No, not that's not going to come up, a little bit further down in our questions. So,
Okay. All right. Well, the next one's not purple, so.
oh yeah, this was kind of like I thought like attached to that. So, Phaedra Kali asked, "Do people make their routines first, or do they usually choose their music first?"
I
This
love
is an
this question.
interesting question.
Yeah, I love that question. So, do I get to go first again? I guess because you asked the
Yes.
question again. Okay, so this is actually interesting because I think pretty much in the beginning, typically in the US, people start by making freestyle, just like putting together whatever moves, and then they're like, "Oh crap, I'm gonna go do something. I need to choose a song." I think that's like 90% of people. Every once in a while, and I have a couple students like this, I'll get somebody to contact me and they're like, I just got a dog. I want to learn how to do freestyle. I want to take lessons and learn a routine. And I have these 8 song ideas. And I'm going to do them like, and I'm like, yes, like that is a lot of fun, right? So I think it depends on where you're coming from freestyle. Those players seem to are like definitely my theatrical performance round people. And they stand out in performance round. Like, it's the performance factor that really gets it for them. They're the ones that are like designing the routine around the dog. Newer players tend to work on their skills first. Now, once you get to more advanced level, then you can look at, okay, I found this great song. How can I modify my freestyle so that, excuse me, so that the big elements of my routine are hitting at the points of the music that I want it to hit. So I think once you have a full freestyle routine and you're at that level where you're kind of tinkering with leveling up your freestyle or really integrating the music into your freestyle, from there I would take a completed freestyle routine. I would take a song that I really like and I would modify the freestyle routine to hit the points of the song that I wanted to do. But I would think that's kind of secondary to a newer player at first. They're really just building out, trying to fill 90 seconds or 2 minutes and then slapping on a song that they like. So I think the other questions that we had later on about tempo and that kind of stuff are more relative for newer players, and the stuff around like designing around music. Other than the handful of like theatrical performance players that we have, I think in general it's an
Yeah, he's
Sorry.
right.
So you said, Dre, you said in general it's such and such. Mostly your theatrical players might do something like that.
Yeah, where they come to me with a song first, and or song ideas first or presentation stuff first, like before they have many freestyle skills, before they can throw very well, and they're already like imagining and dreaming up fun movements they can do, and then like adding the throws into the movements. Like I think it's maybe 5 to 10% of new players coming in the sport have that approach, and those end up being the people that really excel in the performance aspect of it, and that just like we say in any freestyle conversation, like not everybody has to have big vaults, overs, dog catches, and stuff like that to score well. Like sometimes it's the performance factor that is the it factor for people. And so for those types of players, I feel like when we separate, into this question, who's using music up front and who's adding music as a secondary thought after the freestyle is developed, the people that are choosing it up front are more the theatrical types where they're going to really excel in performance. And that's the most special part of the routine. Like, one of my students went out there and had 0 catches in that awful thing, but everybody remembered the performance. It was phenomenal, right? And the joy and the partnership and all that stuff. So I think that's just one of the things like that is that person's strength. And so those people are more likely to come in with a song or a song idea and build it originally around the song.
I think,
Jack,
I mean, and this is from my perspective too. I've done this, but I also know other people that have done it. Dre, I think you said it earlier. When you are first getting into freestyle, I think a lot of times players are just playing around with their dog, trying different tricks, putting pieces together. I'm going to do a time warp here. I'm going to do a four-way play here, kind of thing. And as they feel confident that they're actually going to be able to put together a freestyle routine, they start thinking about their music.
Yep.
Um, that was me with my first dog. I certainly didn't like pick out music first. I was just like trying to put together a routine, and then I was like, all right, let me pick a song I like. That's kind of how it, just happened. Like, let me just pick some song that I like, so that at least I'm motivated when I go out there to listen to this song. But then after my first freestyle dog, and you know what freestyle is, I think then players maybe start thinking of songs. Definitely if they think that that song goes with their dog's name or their dog's like theme or something.
Yeah.
You know, I had like 8 songs picked out for a dog that only did freestyle once because her name was Jam. And I was like, oh yes, I got Pump Up the Jam, Jam on
Yeah.
it, Bad Mama Jamma. I was like, they
Yeah.
just keep coming, keep coming. I got all these great songs. And of course, we did 1 round of freestyle, and that was that.
But you're a music guy, right? So like that alludes to what I was saying before. Like you have a talent for editing and playing and mixing music. So of course you're gonna have cool music and mashups and stuff like that. That's part of the Jack Faley style, right? And so the students that have that performance factor, the players that have that performance factor, I think are more likely to really make music something cool. But like you said, you could
Right,
have a dog that doesn't even really jam and you could still have plans for music that doesn't
right.
just you like the music part.
And I think, like you said, some people naturally in their lives, like many people are into and love music, and that's a big part of their life. And other people are just kind of like, well, it's here in the background, it's cool, but it's not something that they pay super close attention to or anything like that. So obviously, their love of music is going to factor into it as well.
And
Hey,
I don't know if you remember this, Jack, but honestly, I think it's the music that got you interested in doing freestyle to begin with. So while you didn't go into freestyle with a specific song, he played 2 years of toss and fetch before he ever got interested in freestyle. But I'm pretty sure he's told me in the past that it was him sitting and listening to the music and wanting to do something with the music that got him interested in doing
hate it. Yeah.
freestyle to begin with, like one of the reasons. Am I remembering that correctly, Jack?
That sounds like something that would have impacted me and that I might have said, yeah. I mean, I vividly remember the one, not that it was only one, but one routine that definitely like changed my perspective and just it was a ton of fun to watch, and I was like, that would be so cool to do, was Lawrence Frederick and Arrow. And they played to the theme song from
Austin
Austin
Powers.
Powers, yeah. And it just, the music fit perfectly, and there were moves choreographed to different parts of the song and stuff like that. And I was just like, wow, that looks like a ton of fun. Like it also had like a humor component to it. And I was just like, wow, that looks like a ton of fun. And I know that was one of the routines that I watched where I was like, okay, I think I'd like to try to do this.
Yeah, that makes sense that you would I can imagine you having like fully edited freestyle songs before you even have a dog. And just like, like wouldn't this be a cool freestyle song? And Kat be like, well, I guess you better go out there and throw to the dogs. Yeah, I can see that for you for sure. I don't remember. I remember Arrow, but I don't remember. I think you started what, 5 years before me or so?
Yeah, we would have that
7?
routine we would have seen in like 2005.
Yeah, I started in 7, 8, that sort of time. So that was before me. Cool.
Yeah, and Arrow was older
Yeah.
when we saw that routine.
Guess what? Guess what's happening next? I get to ask a question.
All right, go for it.
All right, cool. All right, so Carly asks, do you like a routine better when it's music you recognize? And do you want me to ask all of these?
Well,
Sarah in Toronto is
let's
asking.
just do them one at a time. Otherwise,
Okay. So
I'll probably
Carly is
get.
asking, do you like a routine better when it's music that you recognize? So what do you think about that, Jack?
So I'm assuming that Carly might be asking it from like as a judge, do I
Mhm.
like it better? Um, I mean, because as a bystander, of course,
Right.
yes. If I
You
hear
don't
a song that's catchy or I hear a song that I recognize, I'm more likely to look over onto the freestyle field and see who's playing and what's going on. As a judge, officially, no, it does not impact my scoring. But I'm a human. I mean, if your music puts me in a good mood, if your music like if I'm kind of like bebopping to it as I'm watching, I mean, I'm not deliberately going to be giving you additional points, but I can't say that that doesn't influence a judge. I mean, the other way too, like let's say somebody comes out with like some really like hard thrash metal or something that's kind of jarring to the judges. Like it's not supposed to impact them, but I can't say that it's not going to. I mean, if they're at the end of it, if they're looking at each other going, "What the heck was that?" Then yeah, it might impact your score.
Yeah.
And
That's happened to me before. There are players that play to this like super hardcore metal music, and I have a hard time watching their freestyle all the way through. Like it's just because I feel like I'm getting yelled at when I hear metal music. I do. I don't know why, but I'm like, I feel like I'm in trouble. So it gives me like an anxiety feeling, right? So like that does impact what my experience of that would be. If it was like a super metallic screaming, you're going to hell type music, I would be scared.
yeah, and I'm not saying it's right. It's certainly not. I mean, we should, as judges, do everything that we can to look at what's being presented out onto the field and score that. But you have to remember as a player, the judges are human. We have emotions, we have experiences. If you
Yeah.
know that you're going to have a judge group that is going to be scared of your death metal, maybe don't play to a death metal song. Even if that's what inspires you, find something else that you like that maybe is not so like scary.
Scary. Yeah. All right, good. That was good. Is that your answer?
Yes, that is my answer.
All right, cool. So, like officially for me, it certainly impacts the score. It's part of the performance factor.
Well,
Like,
okay, yeah, I take it back, Trey. Absolutely. Well, I not take it back, but I agree with that. So like I think it's different for Criterion than performance as well, because absolutely your death metal song could impact your 2 points that I'm giving you for your performance if like I was turned off by your performance. Not that I
yeah.
have anything against death metal. I was just saying that as like
My example,
an
I have a
example.
problem with death metal.
Yeah.
You don't have a problem with it. I'm sorry. My puppies are having a full-on wrestling match. I'm sorry if you can hear that behind you.
We can see
Oh.
it, but we can't hear it. No big deal.
It's loud in here. It's like a throwdown.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with Zach. It's Criterion, no. And I hope it doesn't impact my score. And performance, yeah, I'm sure that it does impact some of those 2 points.
Well, I'm gonna push back on Criterion too. It impacts my score. If somebody hits something to the beat of the music, if their multiples go to the beat of the music, like that's
that's-
all showmanship. It's still
But
team.
that's not the question. The question is if they have crappy music, does it impact their score? Or if they, like
If they're hitting to the beat of their death metal as it's jarring you and making you think you're going to hell, Dre, would that
Right.
impact your
I'm
score?
not sure death metal has drops. Like I'm not sure it has a clear beat. Like that's part of my problem with it. If it was death metal that had a nice drop and it had a driving beat that matched with the dog, but that's not my experience of death metal. My experience of death metal is like hard, fast, the whole time screaming. So like for me, I don't see what that adds to a freestyle routine as far as musicality in my own experience. Because there's I don't like 80s music. Sorry, Kat. I don't like it at all. But I can appreciate all the things about 80s music when I watch somebody joyfully play to it and use the music to add movement that is teamwork and all that stuff like that contributes to my Criterion score too, like how that's part of the freestyle routine. It's not just like somebody going out there without music. Like if I'm not going to consider the music at all, why would it be?
you and Lee played the 80s music, so that can't be a completely true statement.
Yeah, that's and classic that deletes classic rock. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what type of music was 80s music. Pop? Was there even pop music?
Everything that came out between 1980 and 1989.
Yes, but classic rock for me is different.
You played to George Michael.
That was just by accident. It was
Oh.
a show song. It wasn't on purpose. That's just what I played to in shows.
Did it at World Finals.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, Dre has insulted Kat. We're gonna have to take a short break while Kat
Covers.
pulls herself back together.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So for me, music does impact the experience of watching the routine, and it could impact the score if there's teamwork involved around the music being tied into the score. It's part of the experience for me. If it wasn't supposed to be judged or scored at all, then I don't understand why it's on the field.
Yeah.
That's just my experience. I'm not saying I'm giving 2-point factor to it. In performance, it's much easier to separate that and measure it, but it does It's like saying it's icing on top of your cake. You have the bite of icing in every single bite. Doesn't mean that's the only thing you're tasting in the cake. You still have the full experience of the cake. So the music for me is like the icing.
Right, but
It
the question was, do you like it better if it's music that you know? So that really shouldn't come into your scoring in the criterion round, whether you know the song or not.
Yeah,
Whether
you're
you
right.
like, whether you enjoy the song and they do something with it may,
Yeah.
but not whether you know it or not.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I would say yes, I do like the routine better when it's music I recognize.
And honestly, before the AKC Disc Dog Challenge this year, I would have said the same thing quite easily. But there were several songs from the royalty-free music that
Yeah.
I liked immediately. I was like, "Ooh, this is catchy, this is poppy." And there were some others that were like, "Eh." But there were a few that I liked immediately. So it can happen even for a song you don't know.
Yeah, I agree. You can still, because like example, the routine that just popped in my mind is James Tang. It's just like a techno beat throughout the whole song. I don't think there's any lyrics at all. And again, it creates the icing. Like for him, it's not about the words of the music to communicate what he wants to communicate in his routine. It's about the movement and the tempo. So um yeah, so that's an interesting point, Kat, because I think if somebody can relate to a song and really likes the song, it can contribute to it. The opposite is also true. If somebody really hates a song or they have a personal history with that song that makes them feel a certain way, it could. We're still human beings as judges, right?
Right. That
And then,
I mean,
yeah,
this bleeds into other areas too. Just like Dre said, your judges are humans, they have emotions. If you
yeah,
know that your song's going to elicit some sort of emotion with the judges, just hope that it's a good one.
yeah. Keep it in mind.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a good
I've sat
question.
behind every updiff playing the music while the judges are there, and I can hear the judges talk. And the judges, there's definitely times when the judges say things like, "Oh, I really like that music," or "That music went really well. It set the tone." And
Yep.
that was not just during the performance round.
Right.
So, to what degree that impacts scores, like it shouldn't be big, but just know everything that you do out there on the field, including your music,
Yep.
impacts what the judges are seeing.
Good. And then Di asked if Jack and Kat give additional points for playing 80s music. And
I
I'll let
mean,
you guys answer that one since that's on you.
I think Kat already answered it
If
un
it's
unofficially.
Unofficially.
no, if it's a performance round and it's 80s music I like, and you're doing something cool with it, then it certainly is going to influence my performance score. If it's criterion, I'm going to enjoy myself more, but I don't think that that's going to impact your score. I hope it's not. I don't consciously let it impact my score.
You don't consider your enjoyment of the experience of the routine in your score?
We're talking about just the song. Now, if they're doing things with the song and that comes to the wow factor, not that we have a wow factor,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
comes to any category that has to do with showmanship or wow
Showmanship.
factor, then right, then it's going to impact that.
Right.
But just hearing an 80s song that I like is not going to be like, oh, this person gets a quarter point more in
No,
every
right,
category,
right.
like
Well,
it
you're
Right.
has
not
to,
going to you're not going to do that like you said, you're not going to
right.
say, "Okay, they played this song, it made me feel this way, I'm giving them a quarter point." But I'll just say for me, it doesn't have to be 80s, but if your song is catchy and has a good beat and I'm into it, I'm in a better mood when I'm scoring you. So it may impact whether when
Yeah.
I'm on the fence between a quarter point here and a quarter point there.
Like the song. Boop.
If I was into your routine and it made me enjoy it more, you're
Yep.
probably going to get the quarter point bump.
New question.
All right, our next question actually comes from Jess Kittredge, and she asks, are there unwritten rules about using someone else's song for freestyle? When does a song become linked to another team and become off limits to others? Does this last forever or only a few seasons?
I like this question. And I think for me, I had two dogs that have had memorable songs. So Moxie and Black Betty and Leap and Bang. And I feel like when I still get messages all the time when people send me Black Betty stuff and people still send me stuff with Leaper music playing. So Black Betty was played by another team before Moxie played it. Wasn't it Bob and Colleen, didn't they play to it at some with one of their dogs?
I don't know. But I mean I know it's been used multiple times throughout the
Yeah,
year.
I mean, I don't know that any of those dogs made as big of an impact as Moxie, in my opinion. It's like I think Moxie was a pretty phenomenal dog, and she played the same song for a while. I think she played Black Betty in a way that um, not many dogs could jam it. So I think that's why it was memorable, and I think it was the same for Leap. Um, I think that it's fine to pick up another song, the same song, but I personally, I wouldn't do it while the other dog is still playing. Um, I maybe wouldn't even do it if the other dog was still alive, personally. And there's so much music out there. Like, I don't know that I would want to have to compete with who Moxie was. And 10 years from now, like, only we are going to remember Moxie, you know? Even if people go back and watch videos, the quality of the videos back then, even from then to now, is dramatically different, that it just doesn't communicate the same. Like, no one's going to really see how amazing that was to watch. And it's just going to have to be in our memories. And at that point, let somebody else create Black Betty or Bang or whatever it is, you know? I don't know that Bang is going to show up again. I don't feel like that's like it could because it has a great driving beat, but it wasn't like it was such a super classic rock hit like Black Betty was. So I would say, you know,
Didn't someone recently down here use Bang, Jack?
I know I've heard it with I can't recall where, but I know I've heard other people use it
Yeah.
before. And that's the thing too, is again,
oh, I think someone else.
this goes to judges being human. Like, I was there watching Moxie time and time again, you know, throw down great rounds to Black Betty, and it just became synonymous with that song for me. So that
Yep.
when I hear it on the radio now, I think of Dre and Moxie, which is
Yep.
really cool. Like, I think that that's part of, to not to get into another question too much, but that's what's cool about using the same song for a while. Like, once you find a good song that matches you, and like it becomes kind of iconic. It becomes, you know, when I hear this song, I think about Dre and Moxie. And if I'm sitting in the chair judging and somebody else comes out and plays to Black Betty, not on
Compare it.
purpose, but in my
Yeah.
head, I'm thinking of Moxie. And if this dog is not killing it like Moxie, it's going to make a little bit of a
Yeah.
impact on me. Like, oh, well, that certainly wasn't as good as the other person that used that song or whatever. And that's in the back of my head. It's not, I'm
Right.
not purposely doing anything on a score sheet about it. But again, it's influencing me because of my experiences. So when you know that there's been especially a top dog that has used a song for a
Their career.
while
Yeah.
and it's kind of become their thing, um, I would I would be cautious of using that. I mean, like Dre said, there's so many songs out there, just pick another one that so that it's not something that, you know,
Has a
becomes an
reputation
issue.
attached to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
to like answer the question, and I answered it on the discussion page too, because I didn't think I would be in on this
But you're
this
addicted to
podcast.
pod. You can't
you're
help
addicted
it.
to pod now. You're a pod.
Um, like if a if a,
Podhead. We need stickers, Jack. Podhead stickers.
that would be kind of funny.
It would be
Um,
great.
it like Jack said, if it's a top team and it's their winning season or something like that, and then that song sticks in your head with that team for a long time. But as far as like this thing that's been happening on social media the last few years, will somebody like will start a thread and
Yeah.
like claim a song? I'm like, no, that's not a thing. Like, because who's to say that the everyone has seen that thread? So like in my opinion, no, you can't claim a song like for a season, especially, maybe in your club you can, or maybe in the little your area, you can try to do that. But like that can't be a thing outside of your area because somebody in Florida has no idea that someone in, New Mexico has claimed such and such song.
I know it's not official. It's not official. But listen, if you're going into something with a space theme like Updiff, and you don't want to plan your shit with the same song everybody else is doing, 100% put your stuff on the page. Hey, by the way, this is the thing I'm using this year. So if you want to have the same song as me, go right ahead. You want to have a different song, go right ahead. But I'm just putting it out there and letting you know this is the song. And I 100% would recommend that to my
Yeah,
students.
I
If
do
you're going
agree
to
with
an
that.
event when there's popular songs there, it's you could say you're not claiming it. You're just letting them know. And I'm going to show up at this event. So if you want to have to show up with the same song that I'm showing up with, like that's cool. You can't, you could like lick it, right? You can't have rights to that song, but you can claim it. And
Just because
it's
you
somebody
happen to
else's
be the
story.
person to say it first doesn't make it a thing, you know? Like,
Doesn't
so
make it
Well,
official. Yeah.
I think it's a good point about updiff and a theme at updiff, you know, like because people know what the theme is, the theme of updiff is out of this world. And if they're planning something for the performance round, and now you've limited the songs that might be about space, right? So yeah, so in that regard, I do think that's a good idea. I like though, as Dre got excited about it, I like how she sort of started like moving around a little bit. If you're gonna show up,
You're going to
I'm
show
just letting you
up.
know I'm showing up.
This is why we don't play up tip, Jack.
I'm just saying, like, you may have put that down, but somebody may have already bought their outfit and already done everything and planned for it. And, you know, well, too bad for you that you happen to be the person to, you know, be like, oh, it's mine first. Like,
And
okay,
you
great.
message
It's
that
not.
person and you pay them to move to a different song. You know, like, listen, it depends on how committed you are. You can certainly message that person and be like, hey, dude, we planned on the same song. Do either of us want to move off of that? And you don't have to take it so seriously if you don't mind playing the same song. But like, hey, man, if you want to get something done, you can get it done. You can message and say, hey, by the way, I'm using this song. If anybody doesn't want to compete with the same song as me, you can message anybody else who says they're using the same song and try and work something out. You can find a remix of those songs. You can mash it up. Like, there's stuff you can do, but like, hey, it's got to matter to you. Do it. It's going to take something. And those are the things that usually separate the top teams from the other teams. Because it is going to impact us if I hear the same song 10 times.
Yeah.
It's not going to have
I
the same impact. Oh, this song again? Like, really? That's the
I
only
can't remember what song it was, but there was one year when Enrique Iglesias came out with some super catchy song that like 10 teams at USDDN played to,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I kept thinking that it was just like, you know, them playing it in between rounds or something. No, it was
Yeah.
people, like that many people had selected the Enrique Iglesias song, and I was like, okay. I mean, it was catchy, but
Yeah.
I don't want to play to a song that 9 other teams are playing to. Of course,
Yeah. So
mine would be remixed and edited, and it would
yours
be the
would be
coolest.
anyway, right?
So,
Yeah. Yep.
But
Yep.
just for the record, so everyone who's listening is clear, like just because Updiff has a theme doesn't mean your performance round has to match the theme. So please don't interpret any of this to mean you need to go find a space song. That's just, we anticipate that some people will go with space as
Many
their.
people are already going to go with space songs. So you could be different by just not choosing a space
There you
song.
go. There you go.
Was there anything else for that one?
yes.
When does it become another team?
So, and Tracy Custer asks, what do you do if you show up and find out on the spot that someone has used your song? Do you like quickly change, or do you just roll with it?
Cry.
Cry?
Yeah, I would just hope I'm going first. It's all you could do. I'm not going to stress at that event. It's too
Right.
late. So like if I go talk to that person, that's stressing them out, man. And like one of the things from when we first started in this sport, that was one of those strategies that the old school players used to do is they'd come in your tent and they'd mess with you at the event. The old experienced players would walk in your tent and start messing with you and your dogs to try and throw you off your game, which is crappy, man. That's not the spirit of what we want for disc dogs. So like if you show up with the same music as somebody else, just hope you're going first. Don't go messing with them or asking them to change their song or whatever. It is what it is. And again, you can always use a remix of a song if you're choosing something that's popular. You know, if you edit it or make a remix at all, then it's not the same.
I think at the event is too late to make a change like that. It's going to
Yep.
mess with your head more, in my opinion, to change your song on the fly
Yep.
than just rolling with it, keeping what you got, and then deciding after the event, maybe you change, maybe you keep it, whatever. But like, don't change anything the day of.
Yep. don't make any major changes to your routine the day of other than for safety.
Yeah.
You know, especially if anybody asks, a judge or somebody else asks you to like, or tells you or suggests changing something major in your routine, don't ever do that at a big event. You can always change it after.
All right, guys. So I think we've been talking about this for quite a while. I think we're actually going to split this into 2 sections because this is a great topic.
Yeah, we have a lot going on here, and we're having a great time talking about it. So we're gonna break it into 2 episodes. So keep an eye out next week for part 2.
All right. Kat, thanks for being here. Dre, thanks for co-hosting. We will see you guys out on Updog Field soon.
And in the meantime, guys, be kind to each other.
And be kind to your animals.